Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project. And Pat, more census migration data out this week and quote-unquote grim news, according to Greg Hines and Cranes. Grim news on population estimates released by the Census Bureau this week, which finds the Chicago metro area losing 20,000 people in the year ending June 30th of 2016. I wonder why Greg would think it's grim news, or what is responsible for the grim news and who is the responsible party. I'd like to ask my friend Greg that. Mike Lucci over at Illinois Policy Institute breaks it down further. All Illinois collar counties have net outmigration. Cook County minus 66,000, DuPage minus 9, Lake minus 5, Kane minus 1,800, McHenry minus 1,800, minus 1,500, Will minus 1,200. 93 of 102 Illinois counties have domestic outmigration. 93 of 102. So the exodus continues. It's the Mark Glennon line from Wire Points invoking The Big Short. When is it going to happen? When are things going to break apart in Illinois? It's happening.
It's happening right now. We talk about this practically every Sunday, Dan. Look, the policy, and our first guest, Jim, our policies are driving people out because we are in the middle of a bunch of other states. We're in the middle of it. So they're going to these other states. Why wouldn't they, right? And that's what's happening. They're not leaving to go off to God knows where. They're leaving to go to Indiana and Iowa and Kentucky and Michigan and all these places that we've talked about.
Yeah, but important that, on net, this idea, it's just people leaving Chicago for DuPage or Lake or Will because the kids are ready for school. No, that doesn't really explain what's happening.
Well, you just said all the counties. There's 90-something out of 100 counties. It's everywhere. And that's just political doublespeak for we have screwed this thing up so badly and we don't want to know what to do. So we're going to bide some time and blame somebody else for their gigantic failure. And the failures continue. And they continue to do things in Springfield, Dan, that's going to lead to more outmigration.
And I don't think we can emphasize this enough, the decision behind moving from somewhere, particularly if you're from that place. I talked to David Keene this week, the former president of the American Conservative Union, of the NRA, 40 years of conservative policy thought leadership from David Keene. And he talked about West Virginia and what's what would used to happen in West Virginia and may start happening again, where when there was a home building booms in Maryland and the D.C. metro area, essentially, a lot of West Virginians would come in and build the homes, and then they go back to West Virginia because they like West Virginia and they don't want to leave West Virginia. That's their home. And that's, the people are sticky to where they were born, most people, where they were raised. I certainly am still in Chicago in part because this is where where you dropped roots, friends, family, history, comfort. And it's a huge decision to decide to pick up stakes and move somewhere else, and people are doing it. And the size of that decision, and thus the ripple effect of it, is really underappreciated when we just say, it's just 20,000 people in the context of a metro area of 9 million and so forth. These are huge numbers, and it's happening year over year all over, and that multiplier effect is massive.
Dan, that's one of the best points that you've ever made on this show, which is how hard.
There's a lot of competition.
Well, which is how hard it is, emotionally hard it is for people to uproot their lives. And think about all the people in these numbers who are moving their children with them. Children moving from. You think it's hard for an adult. Children moving from their place where they're comfortable and familiar in their school and everything in their routine, for them to be uprooted, to be moved and have to reestablish themselves. Sure, it's going to work over time, but that's an enormous emotional decision for these families to do it. And the reason they're doing it is because they've done the calculation and they're like, look, we have no choice. I'm never going to be able to send my kid to college. I'm never going to be able to pay off my house. I'm going to pay all of my home equity to the government that is failing and $200 billion in debt. And I've got to go find another life. And if that means I have to suffer through emotional pain, if that means I have to go through, uproot my kids and force them through emotional pain, it's better to rip that Band-Aid off now and have a chance down the road than to go along this path.
And an example of why people are leaving, why people throw up their hands this week. This is I'm so jaded. It takes a lot to kind of stun me, but this is rather stunning. We talked about this story of a proposal by Silvana Tabaris, a Democrat from Chicago, advanced by Robert Martwick, another Democrat dingbat from Chicago, two state reps, to spend $1.5 million to refashion the Illinois General Assembly website so that it could translate to other languages. How they came up with $1.5 million, who they had as the intended vendor for that, I don't know. And while they were debating it on the House floor, two suburban reps, Keith Wheeler, Republican, and Mark Batnick, a Republican, said, point of order, I'm on my profile page on the Illinois General website, and when I put it through Google Translate, that application, oh, look, I get my profile in Spanish, I get it in Polish.
Instantly and free.
Italian, etc. And after they were embarrassed by their ignorance and lack of intellectual curiosity on the House floor, the bill got pulled. And then it came back this week, and they actually voted on it. And not only did they vote on it, 56 Democrats voted to spend the $1.5 million anyway, despite the fact that everybody on the House floor knows, if they didn't prior to, that you can get the same service from Google Translate for free. $1.5 million, which is not a lot of money in the context of the overall state budget, but it is for the social service provider or state vendor that's owed $500,000, $1 million, $1.5 million.
Yeah, and wait for the campaign ads, Dan, where those 56 running in the races and those who didn't vote against it said that they don't like Spanish-speaking people and they don't like Polish-speaking people, because that's what's next, right? They're going to pile on their largesse and try to use it as a political tool to separate groups from each other.